I'm an Achieve, Apollonian Slumber. I love your name, your logon name, Apollonian Slumber. Cool.
You have no right not to be vaccinated. You have no right not to wear a mask. You have no right to open up your to be vaccinated. The state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm.
And then the final solution, which is a year to 2 years off, is the vaccines.
There is something here. It happened like that earlier.
Who could have known?
Just to head off the conspiracy theorists, maybe we shouldn't call the vaccine the final solution. Maybe just the
Good
best
point.
solution. Okay.
Yeah, the return to normal solution.
Exactly.
I heard it too.
Do not forget what I have told you.
We live in a strange time. Extraordinary events keep happening that undermine the stability of our world. Suicide bombs, waves of refugees, Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, even Brexit. yet those in control seem unable to deal with them. And no one has any vision of a different or a better kind of future. This film will tell the story of how we got to this strange place. It is about how over the past 40 years, politicians, financiers and technological utopians, rather than face up to the real complexities of the world, retreated. Instead, they constructed a simpler version of the world in order to hang on to power. And as this fake world grew, all of us went along with it, because the simplicity was reassuring. Even those who thought they were attacking the system, the radicals, the artists, the musicians, and our whole counterculture, actually became part of the trickery. Because they too had retreated into the make-believe world. Which is why their opposition has no effect, and nothing ever changes. But this retreat into a dream world allowed dark and destructive forces to fester and grow outside. Forces that are now returning to pierce the fragile surface of our carefully constructed fake world.
I'm so depressed I don't know what I'm doing. I have not got a clue.
Alright. Hello everyone. I'm sure that intro took you on a bit of an emotional roller coaster ride. You see how easy that was? Bit of a manipulation of the vibrations of sound, color, texture and shade, and you can instantly strike fear straight into the core of people's being. And that is exactly what they are doing to the populace with all this COVID bullshit and the media onslaught. People lose direction and become fearful of the future. The cousin of fear is doubt. How many of you are now in a state of doubt? They got me too. Being fully aware of the fact that most of the people around you live in a fake world handed to them by the media can make your own reality quite strange, somewhat confusing. I've stopped doing many of my spiritual practices, and I stopped meditating for a while, and I found the effects of this to be quite detrimental. This certainly reinforces the importance of these things, and I'm certainly making a return to them as we speak. Anyway, to help soothe your anxiety a bit, bring you back down to earth, do you want to hear a coronavirus joke? Yeah? You won't get it. Alright, so this will be the first video in which I'm opening up this channel to donations. Hopefully I'll have PayPal and some cryptocurrency options open. I may have more options open in the future. Let me know of any good methods for donations that you guys know of. So yes, I thought my videos have been getting like 10 to 20% thumbs up for quite a long time now, and that translates to value to me. So if you feel you've ever got any value out of my videos, a donation would be much appreciated. And if you feel you don't get any value out of my videos, what exactly are you watching them for? But yeah, anyone who would like to donate, I'll have the links to that in the description. So there's a lot of theories about what exactly is going on right now, and most of those theories are pretty insane. A lot of them are unlikely. A lot of them are just people coming up with shit to make them feel better. People don't like to be unsure of the future. They like to have answers. And I would be one of those people, but I don't think there's really any solid answers for the future here. I think things are largely up in the air. And it's not the greatest situation to be in, but I think that is the truth. Very few of us would have any real clue of what to expect in the future. But here's my take on what is going on, and I think this is a little more grounded and makes a little bit more sense than most of the shit that you'll hear people say. So I think national governments are currently in stocktake before the global government merger. If you look at this as a business move, this is basically how businesses work. This is very typical of what you would expect during a merger. So national governments are in stocktake before a global merger. All governments merge into one. They want a better idea of the assets and liabilities involved. So national governments going into receivership and then liquidation of assets. If you think about it that way, a lot of the moves lately make a lot of sense. So governments have been asking businesses to report loss of income in exchange for an income boost of some kind. So you could see this as governments paying people to report their businesses. This is governments finding out which businesses are active and which ones are dead. So this is they're getting a better sense of the business assets. And now they can track these active businesses into the future. I recently got a message about enrolling to vote. This was an SMS message making sure I was enrolled to vote, reminding me that it was illegal if I wasn't. I've never got a message like this before, so this is more stock take to me. Making sure everyone's accounted for. So South Africa has a stage 4 COVID restrictions, so I'm told, and exercise is allowed outside between 6 to 9 a.m. And the guy that told me this mentioned that that's because COVID is asleep between 6 and 9 a.m. and you won't get infected. What he means by that is it's ridiculous. The timing wouldn't change anything, and that this is more like prison yard rules. We're all basically in the yard now, and prison yard rules are being imposed upon us, or schoolyard rules. You know, respond to a bell, do things when we tell you to do them. Basically, it's compliance. Compliance to the unreasonable is what the authorities are looking for right now, and it seems mostly they've got it. People are very compliant, it would seem. So yeah, you know, it's a business merger. They're taking stock of all the assets, getting active businesses to report that they are active, stock take for the future. And they are also preparing people for massive changes. But this has been going on for decades. It's called incrementalization. Each step brings us closer and closer to global government and an existence that is entirely linked to an ID system and a smartphone, with probably in the future a digital currency. That is being prepared for in the crypto market. I wonder what Ken Copeland thinks about that.
Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord. COVID-19, 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 COVID-19. I blow the wind of God from the state of Washington to the state of Maine to Brownsville, Texas, and the tip of Florida. Today, we speak to this atmosphere. Today, burn this thing. This virus hates I call for a supernatural heat wave straight out of hell. Burn! Burn! COVID-19! 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 I blow the wind of God!
So it's also politicians trying all kinds of insane shit to remain relevant. H.L. Mencken spoke of this long ago in the early 1900s, that governments constantly invent hobgoblins to keep the populace scared, and then they come in to solve these problems and save people from the hobgoblins. David Icke calls it problem, reaction, solution, and that also perfectly explains what's going on. And it should also lead you to expect more random, inexplicable events that lead further towards global government in the future. I believe Phase 2 has already been spoke of, COVID Phase 2, and yeah, I would expect something like that to happen in the future. So you look into the eyes of these experts, what do you see? Why do people trust these people? What the fuck is wrong with them? So the governments can't really help us at all. All they do is extort some of us to help others, while fucking over all of us to help themselves. They also see themselves as above us. And at this point in time, I think of there was a great monologue from the Game of Thrones series about chaos being a ladder. And I personally thought that was an absolutely brilliant monologue that also rings true in real life. And you see what happens to people who join this ladder of chaos and how it destroys them. And eventually they get thrown off the ladder to be completely destroyed. And this process just seems to go on forever. So another interesting thing here that I've noticed is that the actual truth, the absolute truth about COVID somehow eludes all of us. No one knows the truth. Absolutely no one. Not in any certain absolute degree. We are all guessing to a large degree and going off bad information. I've also noticed a trend in the media that the media will release just a flood of stories and then a flood of other stories that say completely the opposite to the original stories. And I think this is the non-linear warfare where they're just putting out so much information that you can't possibly sort through it all to get really any sense of the truth other than what your own intuition can tell you. The facts will tell you almost nothing because all the facts are wrong or fake or conflicting or deliberately misleading. There are really only sane and insane reactions to this chaos magic experiment, and mostly it seems the reactions are insane. Yes, the media stories they release, and then they release conflicting stories that are equally unbelievable. People lose faith, they become demoralized, or they just start pretending to believe the bullshit because that makes it easier. And how much have we seen that? People out there are walking around like... I've seen people walking on the highway by themselves still wearing a mask. They probably haven't come into human contact for hours, but they're still wearing the mask. Or yeah, people driving in their car while wearing a mask. It's... these are the Burger King sombreros. Some pretty stupid shit, but kind of funny at the same time. So I got word recently that there was just recently a new update for the Apple iPhone that has a COVID tracing app on it. So I'll show a graphic here that shows a bit more about that. Like, I've never had an iPhone, so I don't really know. I can't explain to you how to do it, but if you got this update, you would do well to go into your phone and remove this tracing app. Although I'm pretty sure your phone just traces you anyway, and the app it's really just this, it's an incremental step to make tracing completely normal and to make people comply with the concept of tracing. So lately I've been hibernating quite a bit and taking stock after seemingly being knocked off course by all this COVID bullshit. I say seemingly because I still am on course, just not as expected. I've largely been studying and upgrading a lot of my equipment and looking at the next level in a lot of my pursuits. So I'm looking to upgrade, and I've been using this time to upgrade in the best way possible. Been doing a lot of study, research, and putting what I've researched into practice. So it's also my attitudes towards people have very much changed. I'm finding it very difficult to try and relate to these normies in any way, and I've largely retreated from human interaction as I seem to get nothing positive out of it in most cases. It's hard to know what to make of people in this current situation. Like, I look at these people and I try to think the best of them. I try not to think of them as stupid, but more innocent. That they just don't have the suspicion of evil in them. That they're generally innocent. People are generally good, and that is how they are mostly asleep. I think it is mostly innocence and not ignorance. They are not suspicious. They have no ulterior motives. And I probably expect too much of them. Although I feel we are here to learn and to grow, and it seems to me that many or most people will do neither. It seems to me that the true awakening for humanity is that they will awaken to the fact that they have been fools and cowards who have believed lies and fallen for tricks their whole lives. The true awakening for us is to recognize that humanity is insane. Still though, after all of this, my general thoughts are, fuck the normies. Just fuck them in their stupid asses. They are dishonest, weak cowards. And the reward for their complicity will be a big handful of nothing. I wonder what Ken Copeland thinks about that.
Win! Almighty! Strong! South wind! Eat! Burn this thing! In the name of Jesus! In the name of Jesus! COVID-19!
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 COVID-19! I'm grown! Grown! I'm grown! Grown! I'm grown! Grown! I'm grown! Grown! COVID-19! COVID-19! COVID-19!
I've also been thinking of the story of Jesus Christ. He tried to lead humanity to their salvation, and he was crucified for it. The same of Socrates and so many others. Because as C.G. Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid their own shadow, including destroy you and anyone trying to show them their own shadow. So I think this COVID thing has given people every opportunity to question their stupid beliefs or the stupid media that they fucking ingest every day, and they have mostly failed to do so. I recently found this, this is what I would call the BBC Tower of Babel, with pedo statues. And you think that Jimmy Savile came out of the BBC as well. And I'm not exactly sure what message other than the Tower of Babel and pedophilia that this tower is trying to project. And this is linked to the BBC. So, that's kind of fucked up, but there it is. So recently I came across some information that goes back a few years to the old alt-right guys, who I'm pretty sure we were always suspicious that these guys were feds, or at least some of them were agents. But these days it seems like they're pretty much all feds. Like, Cantwell turned himself in, he's now a federal informant. It seems Richard Spencer now backs the government and quotes Henry Kissinger. And I remember that Matthew Heimbach guy. I mean, I always thought he was a total jerk-off, but it seems he's a fed now. And he's gone full Piccolini, full sellout, and now claims to be some kind of a communist.
My name is Matthew Heimbach. I'm from a small town called Poolesville, Maryland. And for the majority of my adult life, I've been the future face of organized hate. I've spent, realistically about the last 10 years of my life engaging in the white nationalist movement and leading a large portion of it. So why not join all the other people from different backgrounds, ethnicities, religions, and cultures that are also dealing with many of these same problems and also want to build a better world? To just kind of raise your gaze a little bit, to say, all of us are in this together, and you can be a part of that solution. It just takes not isolating yourself and walling yourself off in a movement that has done absolutely nothing to make our people's lives better here in the United States, for whether you're talking about white people or anyone else. We need to be involved in a wider and broader struggle together.
So I think that's all basically gone down the shit. And we were basically proven to be right. Those guys were all agents, and it was all bullshit. One of my favorites was when Mike Enoch claimed to be Norwegian. He literally looks like a cousin of Judd Hirsch or something, and he claims to be Norwegian. I think they call that chutzpah. So yeah, around the time I found out this information, I also came across a story that McDonald's is currently being sued in, I believe, the first international lawsuit, as people are claiming there's a huge culture of sexual abuse behind the McDonald's counter. As if this restaurant chain couldn't get any worse. I've heard just about everything about McDonald's, but I hadn't heard this one before. But I read an article from Andrew Anglin where he claims that he went for a job interview at McDonald's for a manager position back in the day, and the store manager there encouraged him to feel up one of the female staff during his job interview. And after he refused to do this, they basically called him a pussy and kicked him out of the store and told him to never come back. But he used this story to suggest that he believes that there is a culture of sexual assault behind the McDonald's counter. And good lord, it seems it seems that, yeah, McDonald's just proves itself to be a worse and worse entity, whatever it is, and probably best avoided. Even though that Big Mac sauce is probably more addictive than heroin, McDonald's is probably best avoided. So a great comment here that the future is humans gaslighting each other for the greater good. And yeah, that pretty much sums it up perfectly. That is what I see everywhere. Also, going back in time, I remember before that probable agent Weave, you remember that guy? The other guy that seemed to be suspiciously Jewish but claimed to be a white supremacist who wanted to genocide people. I remember just before he sort of disappeared, he talked about a new cryptocurrency that was coming out and told people that they should buy into it. This cryptocurrency was called Tezos. Now, I thought at the time that there was something about what he was saying, and if I had money, I would have definitely invested in that coin. And yeah, I got the feeling that whatever this guy, that he knew something, right? That he knew that this coin was going to be a big deal in the future. And a few years later, now Tezos, that I could have got in on the ground floor, is now, I think, the 10th biggest cryptocurrency in the world. So I'm sure Weave's off somewhere, now a fucking millionaire from his Tezos takings. And yeah, if anyone else got in on that on the ground floor, let me know how you went, because I missed out on that one. I'm quite pissed off about it. So there was a clip here that got around a lot about a mother with child being arrested in Australia, and the child was actually ripped directly from the arms of the mother by this gorilla-like police officer. And yeah, this is exactly the shit that I left Sydney to avoid. I thought the chance of me being arrested by one of these brain-dead robot fucks was pretty likely. And you'll notice in the clip that most of the police officers doing this are not exactly what I would call Australian. And this is becoming more typical in Sydney, and I wonder what it is about who the fuck are these people that think that they can come into a completely different culture that doesn't relate to them at all, and they think they can push people around and drag children from mothers and arrest them because the government told them to. Who the fuck are these people? Would you go to someone else's country and do that to them? Would you feel it was your right to arrest people? Anyway, fuck these people. I think they have, they've forsaken their own souls long ago. Oh yes, so there's a guy in Mexico, Jeff Berwick, who he came across a fake news report on Sky News, I believe it was, about crematoriums burning ash, smoke bellowing from crematoriums round the clock in Mexico City because there were so many COVID deaths.
The ovens never stop burning. Black smoke billows out from Mexico City's crematorium. They're cremating here on an industrial scale, and the bodies don't stop coming. They can't cope. They're at full capacity already. The coronavirus pandemic has struck, and Mexico is powerless to stop it.
And Jeff Berwick immediately smelled bullshit, so he went to investigate, and he went to some crematoriums, funeral parlors, things like this in Mexico City, and you know, he just went around asking people like, "Are you busy? Are there lots of bodies piling up?" This sort of thing. And basically, it's bullshit that it's either business as usual, or they're not busy, or nothing's happening at all. It's just pure made up nothing by the media.
And so, after numerous so-called media outlets, including Mike Adams, all parroted the news that the crematoriums are burning non-stop to keep up with the wave of dead bodies in flooded hospitals, I decided to go and show the world what is really happening. First, we called a few crematoriums in Mexico City, and the ones we called were closed. Finally, we found one that was open, the San Isidro Crematory. The parking lot had a sign warning that it was a highly infectious disease zone, and the parking lot was nearly empty, and there were just a few people there, including the manager, and a police officer, making sure we weren't recording. So, nothing there. Here's the parking lot. There's no one. I don't know why they have the police here. The police are actually taking photos of us right now. Here's the parking lot. Empty. And they say I can't go in without a mask, so I got my mask. Now I'm waiting to see if I can get inside. ¿Trabajar aquí?
Sí.
Solo tengo unas preguntas. Primero, yo escucho que todos los crematorios están todos llenos. ¿Eso es verdad?
No.
No.
Espérame.
Ok. Solo tengo como dos preguntas. ¿No estás lleno?
Sí, no.
¿Qué, ¿Tú escuchaste sobre eso, que es lleno?
Sí, pero no estamos. Está dando el servicio.
Ok. ¿Y tú conoces otros crematorios? ¿Ellos están llenos?
Miguel Hidalgo. La Miguel Hidalgo, pero no sabría decirle si están llenos o no.
Okay. Okay, gracias, todo. Gracias. I then decided to go to a public hospital in one of the poorer neighborhoods in Mexico City. I've visited public hospitals in Mexico before, and they're usually full of people and patients, often with lines outside the hospital, waiting for socialized, free medical care. As we drove up to the IMSS Zone General Hospital number 48 in the northern part of Mexico City, it was eerily quiet. Like with the crematorium, there were plenty of police cars and officers, empty parking lots, and barely any people except workers there. Pero, ¿por qué están? Yo escucho es mucha gente, no hay nadie, ¿no?
Es que es COVID.
Es COVID. Oh, limpiar.
Es un hospital COVID.
COVID. ¿Eso es?
Entran de aquel lado cuando vienen a hacerse la prueba.
Ah, ok. Pero no hay mucha gente, ¿no?
No hay mucha gente, por lo mismo de que les informan vía telefónica de sus pacientes, los que ya tienen en cama.
Ah, ok. ¿Hay otro lugar para el COVID?
O la otra entrada es de aquel lado.
Ok, gracias. ¿Eso es de entrada?
Sí.
¿Aquí? ¿Dónde? ¿Cómo entra? You can't enter. There's like no one here. So I'm at the entrance to the COVID testing area. There's like no one here. No one even will come to let me in. So I'm not allowed in. But he says it's full of people. Doesn't seem like it. Hola, ¿estás taxista?
¿Dónde?
¿Estás taxista o?
Sí.
Solo pregunta, ¿es mucha gente viene aquí?
Más o menos.
Pero no tanto, ¿no?
No, ahorita hay poquito.
Poquito, ok. Sí, gracias. While walking around this incredibly quiet hospital, which is very unusual in Mexico City, I saw a funeral store, so I dropped in to see how busy he was. Hola. ¿Puedo entrar? Sí. Gracias. Solo una pregunta. ¿Estás muy ocupado con...? No. Porque las noticias dice muchos muriendo y cosas. ¿Qué piensas? No es verdad, ¿no? No. Ok, gracias. He saw my camera. I should have brought a hidden camera. After finding closed and empty crematoriums and empty hospitals and bored taxi drivers and funeral stores that aren't busy at all, we decided to call it a day. Just as has been found at countless hospitals worldwide, the reality of things is the exact opposite of the propaganda put out by mainstream media that hospitals are war zones and that in Mexico City, the fires never stop burning.
The ovens never stop burning. Black smoke billows out from Mexico City's crematorium.
And because most people aren't in Mexico City, they can't go and check this out for themselves and find out that it's bullshit. But there you are. And it's just an example of what the media does. But the fact is that most media stories are largely bullshit. Anyway, I wonder what Paul Joseph Watson thinks about this. Right. Well, thanks, Paul. I saw this Stephen Colbert guy. I think a lot of people have seen this. Him talking to Bill Gates. Now, why is Stephen Colbert talking to Bill Gates? What's the purpose of all this? Well, I mean, you know, I've been looking at the eyes of a lot of these people, and you see different things, but you see a totally different look when you look into the eyes of Stephen Colbert. What I see, and what I think Stephen Colbert is what you're looking at is the biggest shill in the world. This guy will shill harder than anyone, and he will shill for anything, or anyone, as long as the price is right. This guy will munch on shit with a smile on his face. Oh man. So yeah, this is Stephen Colbert taking shilling to the next level. I think there's also new business opportunities opening up here in the video sharing services. Like I said there would be. This Joe Rogan move on Spotify is a big move. Brian Rose taking his video sharing off YouTube onto his own site. I wouldn't be surprised if YouTube is actually being threatened now. There seem to be big moves happening in this area, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is the beginning of the end for YouTube. But we'll see what happens here. I would say watch this space. It should be quite interesting. I think also through this COVID situation, there'll be a lot of black markets, underground sort of movements happening. Things like speakeasies. I know one particular anarcho-capitalist out in Mexico who's talking about opening underground speakeasies, and he reckons he's going to make a fortune. So that should be very interesting. I'm always interested in black markets, and I like anything that's happening outside of the reach of the government. I also find it interesting that during this COVID-19 pandemic, I acquired more wealth than before with almost zero effort, and I've attained many of the things that I've wanted for years, and I've been thinking, how exactly did I do this? And I do think it goes back to the ritual work that I've done in the past and some of the magical practice that I've put into effect. And I think I am now at a point where I can really teach some of this stuff because I've proven it to work to quite an alarming degree, way beyond expectation. And this stuff is all about how to become the cause in your reality rather than the effect. I think most people go through life believing they are the effect, whereas others see themselves very much as the cause, and there is a vast chasm between the two mindsets. But only a very small amount of knowledge and practice that can bridge that chasm. So yeah, I'll look more into this in the future, teaching people how to sort of ride the wave. What did Bruce Lee mean when he said become water? What does it mean to enter a flow state? How can you program your subconscious? How do you accept yourself? And how do you raise your self-esteem? These are all the keys to becoming the cause rather than the effect. More recently, I have looked into things like energy work, the aura and the energy field, the circle of the magician, being in the world but not of it, overcoming duality while not rejecting it, and fully embracing the negative as well as the positive. So these are all things that I'll be looking into much more in the future, as I now recognize their importance. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of research into this, and I've started putting it into practice. Though I've been doing all this, I have felt increasingly detached from the average dickhead around me. I feel I no longer have any stake in the outcome of their lives. I simply do not care. I don't really see these people as enemies, but problems. Best to be avoided, as there is unlikely anything to be gained from an interaction, and much to be gained from separation. These people are spiritually and mentally unclean, and they're also contagious. Yeah, I've especially felt lately that when people speak of things like humanity or society or we're all in this together or something like that,
All of us are in this together.
I always feel that I am not a part of that. I do not identify as part of this humanity. I mean, I am a human, but I do not identify as part of this humanity at all, or society. Absolutely not. And I very much identify as something separate from this. And I wouldn't mind betting that a lot of you do too, and you're probably having a lot of trouble with this, or maybe not. I'm not yet fully comfortable with all this, but I'm certainly not looking to join the greater tribe that is humanity anytime soon. And I certainly do not believe that we are all in this together, like we all have to take care of each other or something. I think the best way I can take care of most people is to stay the fuck away from them. Well, yep. And I think at this point it's time to just cut randomly to the money printer meme. So you may have noticed this throughout your travels, listening to people. You may have noticed that if you listen to anyone speak for long enough, you'll hear them repeatedly contradict themselves. This is because all truths are but half-truths, and perception is never the entirety of reality. I know that I do not know is the best that anyone can hope for in understanding the ultimate truth. Recognition of the existence of light is not the same thing as knowing its source or its purpose. As all things are found through their opposites, total control is achieved through total submission to the source, allowing things to flow through you rather than from you. You cannot achieve greatness without connection to this source. This can be achieved consciously or unconsciously. Most people will reject this notion because they have not yet reached the end of argument, where one realizes that all arguments go in circles and cannot be resolved. So I was thinking about what would be some good propaganda or an event that would stick it up the authorities about this COVID thing. And I thought one of the best things people could do, I mean, I'm not the kind of guy who's going to organize events and shit. That is not my thing. But if someone out there was to organize a big hug against COVID, like people gather in Central Park or something, 1 million or 100,000 people, and they engage in a group hug, and you see cops dragging people apart, arresting people for hugging each other in the park, it would be great propaganda. Especially people start doing this all around the world, like a worldwide group hug against COVID, or a worldwide group hug showing that people aren't afraid. It's sort of like the people are coming together because of love, and the government's pulling them apart because of fear. It's great optics. You know, the worldwide hug against government oppression, and then there's cops pulling people apart trying to hug each other. I think this would be excellent propaganda, and I would love to see this come to fruition. So if anyone, I've put the idea out there, if anyone wants to make it a reality, the big hug against, the worldwide group hug against government oppression. Make it happen. So yeah, I think whatever the future that we're going into is, it's largely going to be divided into those who watch television or ingest mainstream media, and those of us who don't. Basically mainstream media versus non-mainstream media people, because I think once you really question mainstream media and you get a greater sense of what it's doing, I don't see how you can continue to watch it after that. I think some people do, but I think there'll be a trend for people to just stop watching it while others basically live in that fake world. And the two realities are going to have a lot of trouble coexisting, I would think. It's funny to me that people are starting to suspect that something might be suspicious about governments in this COVID situation. Governments are always lying to you and trying to fuck you. That's what they do. They lie to you to try and fuck you over this side. When you turn around and realize what's going on, they lie to you and try to fuck you over that side. And it's a never-ending switcheroo situation. That's all they do. That's what they do. They fuck you, then they lie. Then they fuck you again, and then they lie. I don't know why people are just figuring this out, but yeah, that's how it works. So I've noticed there's a lot of sales going on right now, but one in particular that I have benefited from recently. Anyone out there who's into music production, audio stuff, anything like that, if you know about Waves plugins, Waves is currently having a massive sale in which I got over 93% off, and I've saved thousands of dollars on a lot of their stuff. So if you ever wanted to buy some Waves plugins, this is probably going to be the best time ever, as I can't imagine them ever having a 93% off sale again. So I got 93% off and then a bunch of stuff for free. So yeah, strike while the iron's hot. Also, a lot of people have realized that it's probably going to be a lot harder to make money in the future, and that it's going to be very important to have multiple streams of income, or just ways to make money. People have realized that it's going to be more important to have more ways to make money as the future is uncertain. Now, what we've seen through this COVID situation is that the stock market largely crashed and a lot of investments have gone very bad. But one particular investment that I've noticed is doing very well is the cryptocurrency market, which has mostly been gaining as far as I can see, with a lot of people making a lot of money. I've been looking into this space and I've made a bit of money in it. I mean, I basically don't understand it at all, and even I've made money, so it's probably a good space to get into. Anyone who's looking about getting into that, I will provide a link. Anyone in Australia, that is. Australia's been pretty notorious for bad crypto sites with poor security and just pretty dodgy stuff. But there's a relatively new site in Australia called Swyftx, which I use, and I would recommend that to anyone. It's very easy to use. You get your money in there very quickly and you can start trading basically instantly. So I'll provide an affiliate link for this, because anyone who signs up through this link, I will get 30% of the fees that this site charges you. So I don't get any of your takings, I just get 30% of the fees, which could quite add up over time. So if anyone wants to get into the crypto space, Swyftx is probably the best place to do it. They also claim to have excellent security in their exchange. So it's probably the best site in Australia. I certainly can't find anything that even comes close. And I've used other sites before, and I stopped using them pretty much straight away because of how bad they were. But I've been using Swyftx a lot. It's very easy to use, and I've been making money on there. And I think there'll be a lot of money to be made in this crypto space, because I think we all know that it's likely digital currency will be the future, and I think the crypto world is part of the incrementalization process that will bring us to a digital currency. So although I don't really believe that crypto is some kind of solution to creating an unmonitored economy, but I've heard there are cryptocurrencies that are untraceable, such as Monero. A lot of people claim that Monero cannot be traced, and that it could be a good economy model for people like us for the future. But basically, I don't really trust the crypto world. I see it all as just a process to get us towards digital currency, but I see no reason why we shouldn't make money out of it during that process. It's there to be made, and the percentages that you can make on cryptocurrency investment seem way higher in a much shorter period of time than just about any other investment that I can find. But basically, I see it as something similar to gambling. Call it educational gambling, in which you learn about a new economy model while making some money or losing some money, depending on how you go. But I haven't lost any money yet, so far we've been pretty good. So yeah, while oil crashed to negative oil, cryptos went up. It seems that the cryptocurrency world was the best investments during COVID. So to me, that's like an earthquake test. While times are tough, the cryptos kept going up. So it seems to me it's a legitimate platform. It's been earthquake tested. It's been around for years, and I expect it to continue into the future. Although I was interested, I researched the origins of Bitcoin, and you basically find out that it's another. It's gone down the memory hole. No one's sure of who invented Bitcoin. You end up with strange names like Satoshi Nakamoto, this guy that may or may not exist. And I would say that the origins of Bitcoin are shady and hard to find, because they don't want you to know the origins of Bitcoin. So I wouldn't expect that anything in the crypto world is actually going to be to our benefit in the long run. But yes, it is certainly a way to make money for now. But anyone that says Bitcoin is some kind of separate economy from fiat currency is telling you porkies. I guess it's good to look for solutions sometimes, and from what I've seen, the CDC has a solution. Why don't we just get rid of all white people?
So I have the solution. Every study published in the last 5 years, when you look at vaccine refusers, I'm not talking about Well, hesitants, most of them we can talk into coming to terms, but refusers. We'll just get rid of all the whites in the United States.
So yeah, I noticed there were no terrorist attacks during COVID. So we've had several months, people locked down. Great opportunity for some terrorist attacks, but there's none going on right now. I wonder why that is. Do you think you might know why that is? Maybe because the people who commit these supposed terrorist acts are focusing on other things right now. So yeah, it really seems to me that humanity is busted. Probably at this point one would do much better to focus on themselves and their immediate tribe. I see humanity at large as a lost cause right now. The only way to really improve it is to improve yourself and lead by example. There will be no mass awakening, and if there is, it will just be another slave cult. I think people have proven this to be true. All those events in history that were mysteries to us, they shouldn't be mysteries anymore. It was written in stone long ago. The slaves shall serve. And never truer words were written. So recently, because of this COVID stuff, or so I thought anyway, the Australian attitude towards the Chinese people has changed quite rapidly and quite starkly. Random people now feel the need to tell me about how much they don't like the Chinese and things like that, whereas the same people used to condemn such an opinion. So yeah, at first I thought that there was some kind of an awakening happening in the country, or some kind of like people starting to be honest about the situation because it was becoming a bit more obvious. But then, more recently, I've realized that the most likely reason that people think this way is because they've been prompted to by the media. Especially on Sky News, I see endless headings questioning the Chinese or condemning the Chinese or telling people that they should be wary of the Chinese. So yeah, nothing's changed. People just believe what the media tells them. Their opinion comes out of a box sitting in the corner of the room. And this will not change. So if you ever wanted a good picture of just how people are desperate to be led, like you look at this Kenneth Copeland guy and you just see a demon, right? It's pretty obvious this guy's like a demonically possessed or just such a massive swindler that his eyes now look demonic. But people give this guy cash, right? People follow this guy. People put their trust in this demon. And that should tell you a lot. I like this comment here. This guy's eyes would make a freight train take a dirt road. I'm not going to top that, so there it is. Yes, the dead-eyed Jesuit, Fauci. That's a set of eyes and a face that really invokes trust. So yeah, that Ferguson guy was busted during the COVID thing. You'd think that would show most people that this is a fake pandemic, but no. Apparently not. Apparently people can, I don't know, perform some mental gymnastics and get their head around that one, but still believe that Ferguson was somehow taking the pandemic seriously. And yeah, if you look at the history of a lot of these guys involved in the COVID thing, you'll find out that in the late 80s, Daddy Bush gave the first public recommendation of Fauci during a speech to the public. And so Fauci has been in the pocket of these people for decades, and yeah, he's been pushing all kinds of bullshit for years, and so is Ferguson, Bill Gates, and all kinds of these people are just epic bullshitters, who have somehow never been really called out for it in any meaningful way by the masses until now, but people still don't get it. If that doesn't make you lose hope in the cognitive abilities of the average person, then I don't know what will. You'd probably have more luck trying to talk sense into a herd of actual sheep than modern people. I've also noticed a trend that it seems that you're more likely to get COVID if you're an establishment figure, a celebrity, or a shill. Have you noticed this? It seems an alarming percentage of these people manage to get COVID, although all of them seem to be completely fine. It's COVID is the splinter in your mind. That's what it is. So yeah, Thomas Sheridan has been making a lot of videos through this COVID situation, and he's been saying that it's the greatest education to educate us about the normies and what they're really made of and all of this. And I'd say he certainly got that right. We've learned that there are a bunch of snitches, cowards, and fools. That NPCs are everywhere. I remember Sheridan reported that there's a large number of people who have no inner dialogue. This is not surprising to me, but it is alarming. I think these people are dangerous. I do see them as largely dangerous. Like police, there's something about the dead look in police's eyes and their robotic actions and the way they follow orders and stuff. Police are dangerous and I can't trust them. And I feel the same way about these NPCs and these bit players in life. These extras. Sheridan also put forward the concept that not everyone has a soul, that there are way more bodies than there are souls, and I thought this is a very interesting concept, that there really are a lot of people walking around who are empty vessels, and I do not have a problem with this idea at all. I guess the problem with it is we'd think, well, what is the point of these people? What is the purpose of them? And just like any movie, video game, story, just about anything, most of the people are just kind of there to fill up space, and like they really are there. Like if you think you're playing a game of GTA, right, there's sort of there's a few characters, but most of the people are just really there to get hit with rockets, get run over by cars, get caught up in traffic accidents and fly through windscreens. I mean, that's what these people are there for. They're there to enhance the story, I guess, and be the cannon fodder in the war. And I don't know how else to put it. It's wastage. If you're in a metalworking facility, every now and then you'll just pump out what they call shitters, or unusable hunks of metal that just have to be thrown into the trash. And I don't know, in any story only a handful of characters really matter, and it's the same for this story. So yeah, I think COVID has shown me that the human race, as it's referred to, is FUBAR. Fuck beyond all recognition. It probably would have been better if millions of people died in COVID, but they didn't. Instead, they just dragged us all down into some collectivized, failing economy that's now become a global... that's now become some global communist superstate, where reality is a figment of the media's imagination. So I don't know, with this phase 2, I'm rooting for the virus. I think we can get millions, and I think we missed a great opportunity there, where nature could have really taken out a lot of the trash. another thing to really take on board about this COVID situation is that, I mean, you probably don't believe it, I don't believe it, but most of the people in the world believe that we just had a pandemic. Like, really let that sink in. And the other part of this is that history will probably record the pandemic as being real. Really let that sink in. And that'll probably do well in explaining most of what people believe about history. Alright, well that is it for now. Remember, you can donate to this channel. There are several options in the description below. If you feel this channel has ever provided value to you, feel free to return the favor, and there will be more videos in the future. Until then, don't believe the bullshit. Take care.
Well, Gig, I think I'd better take off.
Oh, wait a minute, Jimmy. One more question. Do you have any special advice for the young people who drive?
Take it easy driving. The life you might save might be mine. You know?
And then, there it was.
No. Nothing.
Well then, it must be very dark.
It was the man in the green coat.
I wonder who I will be.